Slenderman. Slenderman was created on an internet forum called Something Awful on June 2009. The site was running a Photoshop contest where users were asked to create paranormal images that looked real. A user named Eric Knudsen, under the alias Victor Surge, submitted 2 eerie black and white photographs showing children being watched by a tall, thin, faceless man in a dark suit with unnaturally long limbs. He included a short piece of text describing missing children and attributing their disappearance to a figure known only as Slenderman. That post sparked something unexpected, a digital urban legend. Unlike traditional monsters, Slenderman's form wasn't fixed. Some stories described him with tentacle-like appendages sprouting from his back. Others emphasized his ability to teleport or cause memory loss and paranoia. This adaptability made him ideal for collaborative storytelling. Online communities began building an entire mythos around him, filling in gaps with fictional newspaper clippings, diary entries, and found footage. The most famous of these was Marble Hornets, a YouTube series that debuted just a few weeks after Slenderman's creation. It told the story of a student filmmaker being stalked by an entity eerily similar to Surge's creation. The series ran for 5 years and became a cult hit with millions of views and its own spin-off content. What made Slenderman truly unique was how he spread. Unlike horror movies that needed studios and screenings, Slenderman lived on message boards, creepypasta sites, YouTube, and DeviantArt. He was open source horror. Everyone was allowed to reinterpret and add to the myth. Fan-made video games like Slender the 8 Pages and Slender the Arrival exploded in popularity in 2012, with YouTubers like PewDiePie and Markiplier playing the game and screaming at its jump scares. This exposure rocketed Slenderman into internet stardom and cemented his place as the poster child for digital age horror. But Slenderman's impact wasn't all virtual. In 2014, 2 12-year-old girls from Wisconsin lured their friend into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, claiming they were trying to appease Slenderman so they could become his proxies. The incident shocked the world and prompted mainstream media to take creepypasta seriously, maybe for the first time. HBO would go on to create a documentary called Beware the Slenderman, exploring the intersection of mental health, the internet, and myth-making in the digital age. Today, Slenderman has been featured in books, TV shows, and even a Hollywood film, though the movie flopped partially due to backlash from the real-life stabbing. Still, his legacy is undeniable. He's the internet's first viral monster, a myth not handed down through generations, but created, edited, and believed in real time by millions. In many ways, Slenderman isn't just a creepypasta. He's a warning about the power of collective storytelling and how the lines between fiction and reality can blur when belief takes root online. Jeff the Killer. If there's one face that's burned into the minds of creepypasta fans, it's Jeff the Killer's pale ghost white skin and a grotesque smile carved into his cheeks. The image circulated widely in the early 2010s, but often accompanied by the chilling phrase, "Go to sleep." But Jeff didn't begin with just a photo. His story emerged from creepypasta wiki forums and YouTube horror communities, portraying the tragic descent of a bullied teenager into a monstrous killer. It starts with a boy named Jeff, who moves to a new neighborhood with his brother Lou. After defending himself from local bullies, Jeff begins to unravel psychologically, culminating in a violent attack at a party that leaves his face disfigured and his mind unhinged. The original story details Jeff's transformation into a killer as disturbingly inevitable. After the attack, he is sent home from the hospital where, unable to cope with his appearance, he mutilates his face into a permanent smile and burns off his eyelids so he can never stop staring. That night, he murders his parents and whispers "go to sleep" to his brother Lou before vanishing into the night. This horrifying narrative resonated with younger audiences, particularly teens navigating themes of isolation, bullying, and rage. Despite the clearly fictional premise, readers treated Jeff as a legend, talking about him as if he were a real threat lurking in suburban shadows. Jeff's popularity skyrocketed on YouTube with dozens of dramatic readings and animated adaptations of the original creepypastas. Channels like Mr. Creepypasta, Creeps McPasta, and others played a massive role in bringing his story to life, often expanding the lore with new kills, rivalries, and lost chapters. Over time, Jeff's story was spun into a broader creepypasta universe, where he would sometimes encounter other famous characters like Slenderman or Laughing Jack. His tale became part of a mythos where fictional serial killers and monsters coexisted, each with their own devoted fan bases and crossover fanfiction. His image and story were staples of the early 2010s internet horror culture. Numerous indie games were made featuring Jeff as a stalker or antagonist, and Halloween costumes of his character became commonplace. DeviantArt exploded with fan art, some depicting him as a tragic anti-hero, others romanticizing his murderous persona in a way that drew criticism. The evolution of Jeff the Killer is a fascinating study in how the internet can elevate a single creepy photo and amateur horror story into a lasting cultural symbol, not unlike how urban legends were once passed down through oral tradition. Despite attempts to trace the origins of the Jeff image, its creator remains shrouded in mystery. Over the years, debates over the true original version of the story, copyright claims, and even accusations of stolen art have surrounded Jeff's legacy, but none of that has diminished his place in internet history. Whether you view him as a cautionary tale, a misunderstood villain, or just a digital boogeyman, one thing is certain: Jeff the Killer helped define the golden age of creepypastas and continues to haunt the imaginations of a generation raised on low-res horror and digital folklore. Ben drowned. In 2010, a user named Jaducible posted on 4chan and YouTube about a haunted Nintendo 64 cartridge of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The game, he claimed, behaved strangely after he bought it from an old man. Instead of saving his progress normally, the game glitched and showed twisted, nightmarish imagery. Characters acted oddly, music played backward, and a statue known as the Elegy of Emptiness began stalking him. The haunting had a name: Ben. According to the post, Ben was the spirit of a boy who had drowned, and somehow his presence had fused with the game. What made Ben Drown stand out was how immersive it was. Jaducible didn't just post creepy stories, he uploaded gameplay videos showing the disturbing events, allowing viewers to witness the corruption firsthand. The tale unfolded like a digital diary, with the narrator growing increasingly paranoid as Ben began manipulating not only the game, but also his computer and online presence. Eventually, it was revealed that this wasn't just a story, but part of an ARG, an alternate reality game, where players had to solve puzzles, decode messages, and interact with fictional websites. The Ben Drowned ARG went viral. It captured the imagination of gamers and horror fans alike, blending nostalgic childhood experiences with the terrifying idea that even beloved games could be corrupted by something malicious. Players combed through hidden metadata, hacked URLs, and obscure forum posts for clues. The story's interactivity made it feel like more than just fiction. For a while, people treated Ben like a real digital entity capable of breaking through the screen. This creepypasta also pioneered the fusion of narrative, video, and ARG elements in horror storytelling. Unlike static tales, Ben Drowned grew with its audience. Over the years, Jaducible has returned to expand the mythos, developing sequels and chapters that further blur the line between fiction and reality. Even today, some fans theorize that Ben isn't just a character, but a representation of cursed media, lost innocence, or the ghost in the machine. Russian Sleep Experiment. The Russian Sleep Experiment is one of the most widely shared creepypastas on the internet, largely because of how believable it pretended to be. The story claims that during the late 1940s, Soviet scientists conducted a horrific experiment in which 5 political prisoners were exposed to a sleep-inhibiting gas for 15 days. What began as a mild psychological distress quickly descended into full-blown madness, with the subjects mutilating themselves, tearing off flesh, and even devouring each other alive. Written in a clinical tone with faux scientific details, the story reads like a declassified document. It describes how the test subjects screamed for days before going eerily silent, how they began tearing open their own stomachs and stuffing exposed organs back inside, and how, when finally removed from the chamber, they begged to be put back in. One of the final lines still chills readers. "We are the ones who woke up." It's the kind of phrase that lingers long after you close the tab. The tale is entirely fictional. There are no records of such an experiment, still, people believed it. Doctored photographs of mutilated bodies circulated as evidence. Even though many were clearly photoshopped or unrelated medical images, they added to the myth. The idea that governments might carry out unspeakable experiments in secret is not new, and this creepypasta tapped into that deep-rooted fear. It didn't feel like a ghost story. It felt like a cover-up. Over time, the Russian sleep experiment became a staple of online horror. Smile Dog. Smile Dog is a creepypasta that preys on the modern fear of digital curses and haunted images. The story revolves around a disturbing photograph known as smile.jpg. This image features a sinister-looking Siberian husky with a grotesque human-like smile, stretching unnaturally wide across its face. According to the legend, anyone who views the image suffers from intense psychological distress, nightmares, and eventually madness. The curse spreads like a virus. Viewers receive the photo via email or online forums and are driven to pass it on to avoid worse fates. The story often begins with a narrator who comes into possession of the cursed image. After seeing it, they experience terrifying visions and paranoia. They attempt to warn others, but the image finds its way back to them, growing more malevolent each time. The idea taps into the anxiety of modern technology where photos, emails, and social media messages can spread unchecked, sometimes bringing more than just information. The earliest versions of Smile Dog appeared on sites like creepypasta.com and the Something Awful forums around 2008 and 2009. It was part of a wave of haunted media stories that included cursed videos, songs, and websites. Its viral nature mirrors urban legends of old, such as Bloody Mary or the Black-Eyed Children, updated for a more digital age. The story creates a deep sense of helplessness, a fear that even something as innocuous as a photo could bring harm. Fans expanded the mythos with fan art, alternate endings, and even audio recordings allegedly containing the curse. The phrase "spread the word" became synonymous with Smile Dog's threat, emphasizing the idea that ignoring the curse is just as dangerous as seeing the image itself. This interactive element encouraged community involvement and sharing, much like chain letters from decades ago, but with a sinister twist. Candle Cove. Candle Cove is an internet creepypasta that takes a unique approach by presenting itself as a thread of nostalgic forum posts. Users recount their shared childhood memories of a creepy, low-budget puppet show that aired in the early 1970s. The show featured disturbing puppets and bizarre storylines, including a talking pirate and sinister shadow creatures called the Skin Takers. But as the discussion unfolds, the participants realize something terrifying. The show might have never existed on TV at all. The twist in Candle Cove is that the characters ultimately discover that they were not watching a legitimate program, but rather a collective hallucination, or perhaps a shared psychotic episode. The implication is chilling. Their memories might be the result of something far more sinister than forgotten television. The last post in the thread reveals that Candle Cove was actually a static-filled broadcast of nothing but a blank screen. This format, a found footage story told through forum comments, was groundbreaking at the time and inspired the Candle Cove TV adaptation by Sci-Fi's Channel Zero. The show expanded on the original creepypasta, bringing the eerie puppet world and its dark secrets to life with haunting visuals and a layered plot. It introduced Candle Cove to a much more broader audience, turning an obscure internet tale into a cult horror phenomenon. The story's appeal lies in its blending of nostalgia with psychological horror. Many readers recall their own childhood memories of scary TV shows and cartoons, making the idea of a lost broadcast resonate deeply. It taps into the fear that the things we remember may not be as innocent as we think. The puppets, the shadow creatures, and the slow revelation that reality is slipping away create a creeping sense of dread. The Rake. The Rake is a creature from creepypasta folklore described as a pale humanoid figure, often seen crouching or crawling with disturbing agility. Its unsettling, gaunt appearance and eerie behavior make it one of the most terrifying urban legends to emerge from the internet. Stories of the Rake generally involve late-night encounters where witnesses report freezing fear, paralysis, and a deep, overwhelming sense of dread. The legend began in 2005 when anonymous users shared first-person accounts of encounters with the creature. One common thread in these stories is the Rake's fixation on staring silently at its victims, sometimes for hours, without moving. It rarely speaks, but exudes a sense of malevolence that causes mental breakdown and paranoia. Victims report losing sleep, developing psychosis, or disappearing altogether. These stories often include diary entries, police reports, or hospital records to give them a veneer of authenticity. Like many creepypastas, the Rake has no single origin story. Instead, it evolved through a collective storytelling, with each retelling adding new details, from its glowing eyes to its ability to move impossibly fast. It became a symbol of lurking, unseen threats, embodying primal fears of being watched and hunted in the dark. The ambiguity around its nature, whether supernatural or a mental projection, adds to the terror. The Rake inspired fan art, short films, and countless YouTube narrations. In some corners of the internet, it is treated as a real cryptid, a modern folklore figure akin to Bigfoot or the Jersey Devil. Its minimalist design and simple but effective horror concept make it ideal for digital storytelling and amateur horror projects. Squidward Suicide. Squidward Suicide is one of the earliest examples of a lost episode creepypasta, a supposed unaired episode of the popular show SpongeBob SquarePants, where Squidward, the grumpy octopus, spirals into despair and ultimately takes his own life. The video is said to feature haunting, distorted imagery, unsettling audio, and a disturbing narrative arc, far from removed from the show's typical humor. It plays on the fear of the familiar turning sinister. The story was first shared on forums and creepypasta sites around 2006 through 2007. The alleged lost episode became a legend in the early days of the internet, inspiring countless fake clips and edits that tried to recreate the disturbing atmosphere. Some versions include whispered voices, a scene of Squidward's ghost drifting through darkness, and a final shot of a gruesome message. Over the years, this creepypasta inspired a subgenre of lost episode stories for other cartoons and media, fueling a wave of digital urban legends. The concept of corrupted or cursed media files that cause viewers harm became a popular motif in online horror culture. Videos purporting to be the real Squidward Suicide circulate regularly, adding layers of the myth to the original tale. Though no such episodes exist, SpongeBob did end up referencing the creepypasta in an official episode, and you can see that clip right here. Eyeless Jack. Eyeless Jack is a mysterious and chilling figure within creepypasta lore, described as a humanoid creature with empty black eye sockets that leak a dark, tar-like substance. The story usually follows a protagonist who wakes up to find their organs stolen by this faceless intruder, often in the middle of the night. Unlike more violent killers, Eyeless Jack's horror lies in his clinical, emotionless extraction of human body parts, evoking a primal fear of violation and bodily autonomy loss. The earliest stories of Eyeless Jack appeared in the late 2000s on sites like Creepypasta Wiki and 4chan, where it quickly gained traction due to its unique and unsettling imagery. Unlike other creepypastas focused on murder and supernatural powers, Eyeless Jack's menace was quieter but no less terrifying. His motives were unclear, his presence an enigma, and his silent, watchful demeanor created an oppressive atmosphere. The narrative often includes diary entries or recovered footage from victims, heightening the realism and immersiveness of the tale. Over time, Eyeless Jack's design became iconic, a black hooded figure with deep, empty eye sockets that bleed shadows instead of tears. His eerie silence and mysterious nature left fans speculating about whether he was a demon, alien, or some kind of supernatural parasite. Eyeless Jack inspired fan fiction, art, and even video games. His minimalist but distinct look made him a favorite subject for cosplayers and horror artists. The character embodies a modern myth that merges the fear of the unknown with the horror of bodily invasion, resonating deeply with the human psyche's darkest corners.